Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Cuppa. It is Cookie here at the Cuppa Collab right here live in Barangaroo, and I can't wait to be welcoming in Kamal Sarma very soon. I'll tell you about my relationship with Kamal very shortly as I welcome you in. But today is a big topic of conversation, like AI is becoming faster, smarter, and more capable every day. But what becomes more valuable? Is it the AI or is it the human behind it? We're going to unpack that today, especially looking at Eastern philosophy and Western philosophy as well. And how do we bridge this gap? Because it is time that humanity stands up. It's a time where humanity leans in, and it's a time where we can actually better work together as a community to solve some of the biggest issues that we have in workplaces and society. And today's topic of conversation is one of those, and probably one of the most important ones that we can tackle at the moment. Now, before I kick it off, I just want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connections to lands, water and community. I pay my respects to them and to their cultures and to the elders, both past, present and emerging. I always want to say thanks to the First Nations elders and storytellers who have continuously graced their conversations, their wisdoms and their stories with us here at Cuppa. Right now, across one of our companies, we do have a NAIDOC Week talk happening with Dr. Paul Callaghan and Mundanara Bales. And I wish I was on that call as well. I'm here with Kamal and we're going to unpack some of this as well. But, some of the biggest things that we can learn have been underneath our feet for the last sort of 60,000 years. And that is about coming together and tackling big topics of conversations and building relationships around important topic areas. Well, this man who I'm going to introduce you to right now, who's going to come on screen very, very shortly, is a guy by the name of Kamal Sarma. He's one of the most unique leadership journeys you'll ever hear. From spending 7 years as a monk to advising executives, entrepreneurs, and global organizations, Kamal has spent decades helping leaders navigate complexity with clarity, resilience, and purpose. In a world that's increasingly shaped by artificial intelligence, we're exploring why authentic leadership may be the most important capability of all. Let's bring in Kamal right now. Kamal, welcome back to Cuppa, mate.
Thank you very much. How cool is this? We started this journey during COVID. We're still going.
Let's start there, mate, because when Cuppa started 6 years ago, you were one of our first guests. And when I say one of our first guests, you were in our first couple of weeks. And we held space. We brought human connection to a world where human connection didn't exist in that moment. We had hundreds of people tuning in to sessions because they wanted to feel like they were part of something. They didn't want to feel lonely in their world. Yet we fast forward now 6 years, Kamal, and we are facing a new onslaught of something that is coming to us at a rapid rate. And we are now questioning what is real and what is fake in every bit that we interact with. And so I can't wait to unpack this with you, mate. I think today's session, and if you're tuning in today, no matter where you're watching, don't leave this conversation without feeling hopeful, because that's what we're going to do. We want you to feel hopeful. We also want you to lean in and carry this conversation forward, whether that's in the chat room today, whether you want to ask questions to Kamal, or whether it's you sharing this episode afterwards as well. But firstly, mate, I know we chat regularly. We don't chat as much as we used to. I want to chat more. But how are you feeling at the moment in general? I just want to get to how are you feeling personally?
How am I feeling? I'm feeling good. I'm feeling, I think at the personal level, I'm feeling great. But I worry about the world. I think we live in a world where rules get changed, where red cards get nullified. What? I thought that was a part of reality, that a red card is a red card, but no, obviously not. So I thought a ceasefire meant a ceasefire. So yeah, I think the world is very uncertain. I think that a lot of people are, will I have a job? Will AI replace me? Am I real? I think, what is reality? To see is to believe no longer. So I think there's a cognitive load that people are struggling with. It's freaking scary.
It is scary. And one of the things that I've always learned through my journey in those scary moments, and you and I have tackled many scary moments together in our personal lives and work life, is that we can control our own outcomes in the way that we internalize things and how we explore things and what we look at. And we might get to that a little bit later on. But I want to touch on first, mate, your journey of going from monastery to boardroom, right? such an incredible journey, and you can touch upon that a little bit more in detail if you want to. But what I really want to understand is what lessons have stayed with you across both those worlds.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for asking. So a lot of people think that I've gone from, the monastery to money markets, private equity, venture capital. I used to be a trader on the money markets when interest rates used to be 17%. So that's my claim to glory. And I've been in the money markets for many years. But here's the weird thing. I think I'm doing the same thing. When you're a monk, you're trying to understand humanity and the human mind. When you're in the money markets, you're trying to understand humanity and the human mind. It is what, I've gone basically from the cushions to executive chairs, gone from the monastery to meeting rooms, and, from robes to Rolexes. Not mine, somebody else's. But I don't wear a Rolex, but I'm going how did I get from a robe to sitting next to somebody with a Rolex on? The thing on their hand was worth more than most probably the whole monastery put together. So I think human nature doesn't change wherever you are. So I think that's been my, deep curiosity around the human condition. It's kind of cool.
It's very cool.
I think people are asking the same questions, who am I? Do I matter? Whom do I matter to? Does the 4,000 weeks that I spend on this planet, am I going to enjoy it? Is it going to be a struggle? And pretty much it's, 80 summers, 4,000 weeks, limited time.
Do you think we're on the cusp, and this is going totally off script here, but do you think we're on the cusp of an identity? No. Do you think we're on the cusp of an identity issue tsunami coming with the impact of AI and what it's going to challenge white collar workers with around, when our identity is so linked to our roles, and when our roles, do you feel like, because I feel it, I feel like there is this wave coming where people are going to be looking for more meaning than they ever have before because they're not protected by the jobs that they go to.
Yeah, but that's saying that your identity is fixed. My strongly held belief is that you change your identity every 7 years. So, when you're a kid, so 7 years, all the text said 7, 14, 21. In indigenous cultures, coming of age was 14. You become an adult when you're 14. 21, you become a man or a woman, your identity, you're a dad now. That's changed your identity. I'm now an empty nester. My identity is now weird. It's, I don't identify as, I still get upset when, I'm on the train and somebody says, oh, you're Kailash's dad. Get lost. You don't know who I am. So I think this fear around identity, don't worry about it. It's chilled. We're always shifting identity.
Okay. What do you think? Sorry, you go.
I call it the dark night of the soul. Every time you change identity, you go through the dark night of the soul. That's my view. I think everybody goes through different, you get married, you get divorced. Your parents, if both your parents pass away and you suddenly become an orphan, at 60 or 70, hopefully, you get to see your parents, but identity things are not new.
And is that the cool thing about what we're coming to at the moment? Because if we are being faced by what AI may do to us, it does potentially alchemize what our new potential may be, or what we actually are really passionate by or looking to explore. Is that the opportunity that comes out of these moments?
Yeah. So my, and what we're going to talk about here is authenticity. Is I think it's making, I think we're fed up with the bullshit. I think I'm fed up with my own bullshit, bullshitting to myself. When does that end? So this thing around being authentic is just stopping the bullshit. Can you learn to stop bullshitting yourself, bullshitting other people? And it's okay, because what we do is we sacrifice authenticity for acceptance. So when you're a kid, imagine you're a little kid, right? And somebody burps or farts, you're going to go, oh, who farted? A 3-year-old kid has no filter whatsoever. As you grow older, you realize that you can't do that. So you start to become less authentic, and that's okay. But I think you start to have to get the skills about being authentic again. So I think one of the things is that I think we're rediscovering our authenticity. Doing that is hard because people don't teach it. I'm going to put my hand up. I didn't know how to be authentic. So I've had to learn those skills.
Define it for me, Kamal. Like, what do you mean by being authentic? Like, where is the core of authenticity?
I call it being attuned with yourself. Authenticity. So I know how to be honest. My father was the most honest man I met. Yep. But he didn't talk about his feelings or his struggles and stuff like that. And neither did I for many, many years. And authenticity is the ability to share what's really inside you. To do that, you need two things. You need to figure out what's happening inside you. Most people don't. And number two, you need to be able to share that in a way that is not aggressive, non-judgmental, and most people don't know how to share that. Share what's happening. And it's not oversharing, it's being authentic. And that takes time. I think AI is becoming very good at understanding the world around us, but the most valuable skill we'll have is tuning into ourselves. And the freaking phone makes me tune out of myself. So, and by the way, I'm not saying that I'm mastering all of this. I'm just on the journey like everybody else.
Yeah, I think we all are. But it's really interesting as I'm picking up and as we're doing more at Cuppa, some of the feedback that we're getting from sessions is thank you for being real. And I just find that extraordinary. Like, thank you for being real. Like, where have we got to as humans to actually feel like, you know, right now, we should be real always, but I think we've just held up so many different personas or banners that, like, you know, we've spoken the corporate jargon for so long, then all of a sudden AIs come in, and, you know, like, I just feel like this real and authentic nature of who we are is just at this beautiful opportunity, I suppose, for humanity inside workplaces and just in general to really focus on what's real, because I do believe we are questioning everything. What is real? What is fake? Is that article real or fake? Is that real that I see on social media real or fake? Is that person coming into my environment now real or fake? Like, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. My son and I, Kailash and I, did a TED talk. It was quite interesting. We did the TED talk, it was great. And afterwards, I had a lot of young men come up to me and say, hey, I used to have a girlfriend. I've broken up with them. And now I've got a AI girlfriend. And I'm going, okay, tell me more.
Right.
And so I said, yeah, it was really hard to have a girlfriend. So the AI girlfriend, you know, I can talk to, and that was really fascinating for me. And obviously they're having their physical needs met, you know, in different ways. But, you know, this really interesting thing is where we want the world exactly like the way we want it. So this AI girlfriend has been created for them. And that scares me a little bit. So I think authenticity is being real with yourself, but also accepting other people's authenticity, like what's and all, yeah.
Let's get to leadership, mate. And what do you think right now that many leaders haven't fully recognized yet in the changing landscape that leadership is?
Wow. So I think there's a couple of things. We're doing a lot of work globally with hybrid teams and disconnection and connection. Everywhere from how do you have a courageous conversation when you're on the other side of a screen? That's really tough. How do you have an authentic conversation? And that's having real world implications. On the downside, a lot of risk is being embedded into organizations. Financial risk. We work with a lot of financial institutions for people to have risk conversations. Like, you want to make sure that your money is not going into money laundering, into stuff like that. So how do you have that risk conversation, right? Number two is technical risk. Like, I won't mention names, but, you know, there was a big outage yesterday. And, you know, it's not, you know, large IT firms, large telecommunications firms. When you don't have these authentic conversations, what happens is stuff falls in between the cracks. And that creates, so I think what we talk about is really making sure that because AI is doing a lot of the technical stuff, there should be more space for the authentic leadership stuff. And it's about asking questions that you haven't, it's about giving answers to questions you haven't asked. I'll repeat that. It's giving answers to questions you haven't asked. I can ask an AI a question, but a leader needs to make sure that they create a climate that those things that are surfacing into the environment. So what are the conversations we're avoiding? You know, Yeah, I think my belief that there's a risk issue. There's also a revenue issue that that hybrid teams, hybrid organizations are struggling with at the moment.
Yeah, and is that coming back to the fact that, or is it a multiple reasons why that is occurring? Is it the fact that our communication styles and structures have changed so dramatically in how we communicate inside business? Is it that we've got such a disengaged workforce that, you know, it's very hard to hold space where people actually give a shit inside their own workplace anymore? Is it a multifaceted thing of where we've got to for this conversation?
Yeah, it's a huge question, and I'm going to give my 2 bits worth. So a lot of people are talking about productivity at the moment, and I think they've missed the point, and I'll tell you why. So a lot of people talking about tools, they're talking about stuff like that. There's some great, and I don't love kind of quoting research by war metaphors, but in the Vietnam War, they did a really interesting piece of research. And the piece of research, it was those teams that survived the most were the teams who were most connected. So people did not fight for country. They didn't fight for their general. They didn't fight for values. They fought for the person next to them. What we're seeing is a level of disconnection, mass disconnection, that we started to see pre-COVID. It accelerated during COVID. Now it's exacerbating with artificial intelligence. I don't go to work for the bottom line. It's terrible. I go to work to make sure my team member isn't let down, that I feel a sense of belonging. So I think where we want to increase productivity and hence leadership and hence thriving and flourishing businesses is that connection that you have with another human being.
So that leads to a perfect question to you. How does Eastern wisdom actually complement Western leadership thinking in today's world? And is that the answer? Is that like how, from what you're seeing? Because I see it so much with First Nations wisdom and why we should be grounding ourselves more and simplifying the way that we work and connecting more. But for what's your perspective on Eastern wisdom with Western leadership?
So I think Western leadership taught me about how to help change big organizations, large organizations. I've worked with government. I've worked in huge mega organizations that have bigger GDPs than most small countries, right? Eastern philosophy taught me how to change myself. And I'm not saying it's a finished product. I got really curious around that. So I think one asks, what should I do? But Eastern philosophy is more about, what's happening within me. How am I interpreting that data? How am I interpreting that knowledge? I always think about this. We've mapped the oceans pretty well. We've mapped the genome. We're trying to get to Mars, which is pretty ridiculous. But we still don't understand the person that's looking in the mirror. So I think what Western leadership is about is creating the tools, the techniques to do all these things. Eastern philosophy, and I'm not going to say leadership because, it's about how do I maintain curiosity and that passion for life? We need both. We need the yin and the yang of both. One is not enough. Like sitting in a monk, staying a monk for me was not the right thing to do. It's how do you get into the world? How do you make the world a better place? And you need the both yin and the yang.
From your perspective, Kamal, do you think we're investing enough in human leadership skills, or is the conversation become too focused on technology in your perspective?
So I'm biased. I run a leadership firm, so don't listen to me. It's really funny. I find organizations are lucky to give people a half-day leadership session here or there, or we'll do a 1-hour keynote and we'll teach you about resilience. No, you won't. Mastery is, I think it's called the Google effect, and then now I'm going to call it the Claude effect or the ChatGPT effect. If I want something, I'll go and Google it or I'll ask it. We don't internalize it. I think we need to be able to internalize things. And what I found is that AI, it can analyze, it can summarize, it can recommend different options, but it can't repair trust. It can't inspire courage. And it can't truly connect with another human being. I think AI can process information. Leaders create transformations, and that will still be the case. How do you invest in your leaders so they have the skills and tools to create the transformation that's going to be needed in organizations?
I'd love to hear anyone else's perspectives if you want to put in the chat room, or if you've got any questions, please throw them into the chat room for us. What's your thoughts about critical thinking and connection and human relationships with the impact of AI? Because it already feels like it's in a rapid decline. But what's your perspective on it?
I think we are outsourcing. So there's a lot of research that shows, people that have gone through university with AI have lowered critical thinking skills. I'm not worried about AI replacing a lot of human stuff. What I think is, I'm not worried about artificial intelligence. I'm worried about artificial humanity. And so, seeing Claude and Fable and DeepSeek and all that kind of stuff, I'm not that worried about it. I think it's I'm worried about when we create artificial humanity that doesn't, when I see somebody hurt or a child that's hurt, I'm not thinking, what philosophy did it grow up? Which book did it, which book? My deep sense of humanity is to look at that child as a child. So my view on it is, my worry is that artificialness that we're creating.
It's really interesting you say that, because and I see it a lot within our ecosystem here at Cuppa. I just see a lot of people spending so much time in trying to use AI in a way that helps build them as individuals and also their businesses as well, that all we're doing is asking it, instead of acting and seeing and touching and feeling and going out there and testing and just building relationships. So I feel like there's this it's not good, but I feel like there's this interesting dynamic where all we're doing is just trying to brainstorm and dump things and learn and get AI to solve our problems, versus going out there and just actually seeing what's actually going to resonate. And I'm guessing that's happening everywhere as well.
And full disclosure, I am investing in AI technology. I am, looking at AI startups. I look at, everything from using AI for genome and, stem cell research. It can accelerate things, but I think our humanity needs to stay up. And I think humanity is declining in terms of that we care for other human beings. That's my fear.
Yeah, there is a lot of that happening at the moment. Again, if there's anything else you want to say in the chat room, please put it in there. Mate, we hear a lot from organizations, especially around change. Like, I was sitting on the boat the other day, and one of my friends from a media company said, Cookie, I've just gone through our 5th round of redundancies in the last sort of 6 years. And we've had 3 CEOs in the last sort of 6 years. And now we're facing some other things and headwinds around AI and what that may look like. What practical habits help leaders stay grounded and self-aware during constant change?
Wow, that's a big one. How many hours, days do you have? Step 1, don't bullshit yourself. Step 2, don't bullshit others. I think that would be the main thing for me. I think I'm very good at bullshitting myself. Like, I think it's called willful blindness. I think sometimes we're willfully blind. Like, Cookie, I hate to tell you, but you got spinach in your teeth. No, I'm kidding. You don't have spinach in your teeth, but you don't know that you do. Like, I have spinach in my teeth. So how do we make sure that the proverbial spinach in your teeth you don't have? Number 1. Number 2 is that once I'm told that I've got spinach in my teeth, I don't shout at you going, how dare you tell me that I've got spinach in my teeth? So understanding, so I think the practical habit is surround yourself with people and create a climate where you don't bullshit yourself. I think that is the main thing. I've been very blessed to have people in my life that call me on my bullshit. That's number 1. You need to have those people. But number 2 is, can you create a climate where people feel comfortable to call you on your bullshit? And I think so many times it's like, almost because we enter this bubble of information and the algorithm gives us what we want to hear, that bubble of bullshit stays. So how do you help yourself kind of pierce that? I think that is the main. I think, and that requires relationships. I think you and I have a relationship where if I'm going to be bullshitting myself, you will tell me, and vice versa. But that requires authenticity, requires a lot of trust. But if I go to ChatGPT or Claude or something, they're going to say, oh yeah, Kamal, you're doing a great job. So anyways.
But we're throwing all our trust into that, and we're acknowledging that trust because, like what you said, even people are now using it for their own personal relationships because they're getting that validation constantly. The validation in where you are versus that stretch and pain of working through an issue to actually embed that versus the false economy that we might be creating using AI in this space. I think that's the real interesting part, because we need tension sometimes. And I don't mean heated conversations. I mean tension where we're being thrown challenging thoughts and questions from other people sitting across from us so we can feel it, not just see it. How important is that, especially in work dynamics?
So can you repeat the question? How dynamic is the challenge?
No, the importance of stress and challenge, not stress as in like, but I mean tension of holding space and having conversations that not heated, but will challenge your thinking more than just accepting what you see on AI.
Totally. So here's my belief. When we had the Industrial Revolution, do you know what we lost?
What?
We lost muscles. So what happened is our muscles started to atrophy because we didn't need to do heavy lifting. We didn't need to push things around. We had machines to do that. With artificial intelligence, what's atrophying is our ability to process and feel that friction. That's why you need to get into a relationship versus an AI relationship. Because as you know, relationships are bloody hard work, be it with your partner, be it with your kids, be it with your colleagues and your team. That's where you do the trick. So what we're seeing more of is how do you bring friction into the organization. You need friction because your word tension, like when we run a leadership program, we don't want everybody to like us. That's not the point. We want them to really push their buttons. We want them to be annoyed by us. We want them to do stuff. I see a lot of people in organizations going, oh, come on, we don't want to interrupt their routine too much. No, we want to create a sense of tension. We want to create a sense of friction because that's when you learn and grow.
What else do you think leaders can be doing, Kamal, to build more connected, emotionally aware and resilient teams right now?
That's a really interesting question. And as I said, we're doing quite a lot of this work globally. And I'll tell you what we found out. This is what we're finding out, is that connection has gotten so much harder. Number one, I think there are three main levers that you need to use. The three main levers are this: authenticity, we talked about, humility, and vulnerability. So, Cookie, you have mates that you met at school, right? That you haven't seen them for years, but you sit down with them and it's like you're 18 or 17 or 15 again. True or false?
True.
And the reason for that is that you're authentic with them. You tell them how you really feel. You're humble with them. They'll tell you what it's really like, and that you're vulnerable with them. So these are the three things that I think leaders need to be able to create. Create a climate where you're humble to take on the feedback, vulnerable to share about the stuff that's going on, the fears, and that's where the whole risk thing is. There's a really interesting piece of research with NASA, sending rockets into the sky, and they had lots of mistakes. And if engineers started to talk about how they felt, like their gut, they were more likely to reduce errors and risk situations.
Ooh, really?
But engineers didn't talk about that much. Do you get? Yeah. So that's.
I was going to say that because one interesting thing that's come up with me as I've sort of understood a little bit more like who Luke Cook is and my blueprint is ensuring that I listen to my gut more instead of with my head. Gut instinct.
Totally.
Like, how critical is that for most people to actually tune into how they're feeling in the body, and also what they're feeling is the right decision for them versus just always being in the head and processing things.
Absolutely. And what we know is we got neurons in our head, our heart, and our gut. We know that. And we've been doing a lot of work on, head conversations, heart conversations, and gut conversations. How do you have those? And some societies could do that better, but because we've been hyper rational, we've forgotten about the emotional stuff. And sometimes we talk about emotions, but your gut feeling is your gut neurons processing information that your head neurons couldn't.
How do you distinguish it? Or is it just the feeling? How do you distinguish them?
So I'm calling it attunement. So as a monk, you spend a lot of time tuning into yourself. When I was a monk, I was very tuned in because I wasn't on my phone. But what we do is we lose that attunement. Young kids are much more like that, right? They can tune in to themselves. So you got little ones, right? If they don't want to hug somebody, don't ask them to hug somebody because they've tuned in with something, right? But when we were growing up, hug your uncle or your auntie or this total stranger, because that was the right thing to do. That was being acceptable, not authentic. So that's what we were taught how to do. But now we're learning. So I'm presuming that if your daughter didn't want to hug somebody, you go, that's cool. So totally. It's the process of tuning in.
Yeah. Which I love that. And what we sort of said at the start is never more important is to be able to tune into who we are as humans right now in this rapidly shifting world that we're facing. If someone wanted to become a more authentic leader starting tomorrow, Kamal, where should they begin?
Could you repeat that? Sorry, I didn't.
If someone wanted to become a more authentic leader starting from tomorrow, like where should they begin?
And once again, you're talking to a guy who didn't know how to be authentic until he was about 40. So I think I had to learn the skills about how to be authentic. So if somebody wants to really learn how to be authentic, know that you're not being authentic, and it takes a lot of courage. I think that my daughter passed away, and for many years I couldn't talk about that because I wasn't strong enough to share that. So authenticity requires you to build your sense of self first, because when you're authentic or vulnerable, you're going to get hurt. So the reason why we're not authentic, we're not vulnerable, is we've been hurt before, and we're we're fearing that. So the process of being more authentic and more vulnerable, build yourself up. So when somebody has a go at you, you can bounce back. Do not try to be authentic and vulnerable when you're not feeling strong. Put the mask on, I would say. There's nothing wrong about the mask. Keep the mask on for a while until you feel strong. And then when you're ready, take the mask off. Because when you take the mask off, people potentially will have a go at you.
How important is it, Kamal? Because I'm coming from lived experience with this, is people pleasing. Where, you do things for others because you just don't want to hurt them but it impacts your energy, impacts your time, it impacts against your values sometimes as well. People pleasing is such a big topic area as well in this space. Like any sort of tips or elements there?
So many years ago, my mentor talked to me about the distinction between serving and pleasing. So he said, Kamal, you have no boundaries. And I went, yeah. So this was the guy that was sent to a monastery. I did a podcast. I did a LinkedIn post about this. I was sent to a monastery. And everybody go, how cool is that? No, that's bullshit. It's bloody hard work. And it's really lonely. And I still, regret that I didn't have those 7 years with my, very developmental, I can't pronounce, those good years with my parents. But so I think people pleasing was deeply embedded into who I was as a person. So I would have said that was my identity, right? So when I came out of the monastery and I learned and stuff like that, and I spent time with my mentor, creating the distinction between serving and pleasing, you're there to serve your kids, not please them. Like, you've got kids. You're there to serve your team, not please them. You're there to serve your partner, not please them. I think we're here to serve the world, not to please the world. And sometimes you have to have a contrarian view on what the world is. With our clients, we're there to serve them. If you come to one of our programs, sure, whether you put me 5-star or you hate my guts doesn't really bother me. But whether you like and you've got some benefit of this, that's what we're here for. And I think we need people that want to serve us rather than please us.
Kamal, what's some of the things that you're being asked most about at the moment from leaders, and how are you supporting them in that journey?
Number one is courageous conversations around risk. I think that's been a big one. We did, I think just recently, 5,000 leaders, 90 cohorts around that. We're doing a lot of stuff around courageous conversations, a lot of around artificial intelligence. But now artificial intelligence is kind of like, I can vibe code an app. I can vibe code, anything. It's not about that. It's like everybody that's got a phone now is not a great photographer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm pretty good.
You're pretty good. But what it is, it's about the human skills around connection, because that is the X factor. That will be the X factor. I think, until, Skynet comes and replaces me, I'll be around. But until Skynet comes, I think that's it. Terminator. It is the need to be human, to connect as humans. Our clients are still human. Our colleagues are still human. Our people that we care about are still human. So,
Well, and that's my biggest hope, Kamal, is that, with the impact of AI and, its ability to be able to tackle those mundane tasks for us, to be able to build stronger relationships and new ideas and collaborative efforts. And I think that's where my hope sits with all of this, is that if we use it in the right way, it can also benefit us to be better and get back to the roots of why we're here.
Totally.
Now, everyone, if you want to find out more about Kamal, you can click on the link that I'll put into the chat room. You can find out more about Kamal. You can book him in for a connection call and reach out to him if you need any support for your teams, your leadership teams, to bridge that connection gap, build a stronger conversational muscle in your business. So you're setting your foundations right for the success ahead that you deserve. Kamal, any parting words for our audience today before we head off?
Yeah, you've got young kids, and I think about you and their kids a lot. And I think about what is planned for the next generation. I think we've mapped the oceans, we've mapped the genome, we've built an artificial intelligence that's growing faster than our intelligence ever has. A lot of the experts are going, we don't know what's, underneath the hood here. I think the most important thing we'll need to flourish in ourselves individually, within our teams, within our organizations, within our countries, is understanding the person that's looking back at us in the mirror, number one. And number two is, how do we tune in with the person that's next to me? I think and that hasn't changed. That hasn't changed from when I was a monk, when I was 13, to when I am now in a boardroom. We want to be tuning in to the people that really matter the most.
Here. Everyone, can you please give a wave of gratitude to Kamal? And also thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. Kamal, it's been absolutely amazing to have you back on Kappa. So appreciate it.
Stay well.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. We do have a massive live stream coming up tomorrow all around productivity. I know Kamal said, let's tackle productivity in a different way, but the essence of what Kamal was saying, you'll hear a lot in tomorrow's session. We already have about 50 to 60 CEOs and C-suite in the room here at the Kappa Collab, and our audience numbers are growing online as well. We've got over sort of 250 now tuning into this session tomorrow. It is a big topic area, but an important topic area for many leaders to be able to tackle the productivity, performance, but also making sure that we don't burn out our teams along the way. So make sure you tune into that session, everyone. For now, that is it from my side. Hope you enjoyed today's show, and please tune in tomorrow and any other show that you want to. If you go to kappa.tv, you'll find out all the information. See you later, everyone. Bye.